Hey everybody, good to see you here again at the Red Barn as we continue working on the Ferrari 360 Swap 914. In the last episode, I almost finished up on all the engine side coolant components, so I want to wrap that up this time and then move up front and see how far I can get up there. Enjoy. All right, now time to make my special angle here to get me around the corner into that channel. So I took my hack piece, which I proved out as the right setup, and just made a little fixture-ish thing with a mark on the table. And now I'll just weld that up. I just cut a couple 45s to keep the corner, you know, it needed to be steeper than 45, so a couple 45s. And I'll just get this welded up, work out the length, get the bead into it, and we'll be all set for this piece. And there it is. And yes, I don't know if that's coming through on the video. It's a little bit steeper than this, which you may say, oh, you're making this part up. But no, I did. I wanted to err on the side of a little steeper because as I've been playing around with it under the car, it actually turns out that having it be a little steeper will probably work a little better. And it's only like a couple degrees, maybe not even that much. So yeah, there's the, and the aluminum welds are coming along. They're not great all the time. I have flashes of brilliance. But I'm getting consistently better, and as long as it doesn't leak, we'll be in good shape. So now to get this under the car, and now the fun part is this rotation on that tube that's coming down the hill is where it really matters. I got to get that dead right. Otherwise, this isn't going to point in the right direction. So now to go work that out. All right, this worked out really well. That's actually butted up against the other pipe. It's trimmed to length, and I just used this piece of rubber just as a sort of a temporary, like, make sure it's in the right place. But if I kind of spin you around on the wild ride, you'll see, I gotta say, I nailed it. I mean, it's exactly where I wanted it to be. You'd think I did this more often than just making it up as I go along. Now, I always just assumed I would weld that joint, but now that I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, you know, if anything, oh, and here's the other problem. This one, I was thinking about this as I was lying awake worrying about design. This one I can have clear the pinch point at the back of the chassis, but you know, I thought about this while I was doing it, but I forgot to remember, and that is that other one that I mocked in here was a straight and a straight, which meant I had more straight to get a hose on and put the bead in there, but you can see, well, you kind of can't see. I don't have enough length here to keep this out from underneath the bottom of the car. So this is going to have to extend out a little bit, so I might just leave it, you know, till like here. And that's another reason not to weld this here and have this be one piece, because heaven forbid, if this ever does get screwed up, I'll just have to remake this piece and not worry about this whole upper piece or cutting it and re-welding it or whatever. So I think I don't know if it makes me smart or chicken, but I'm gonna go ahead and go hose clamp, and have this be a separate around the corner pipe. So I'm gonna go ahead and trim this to length and bead both ends of this, bead the end of that, and the engine side will be done. And then one last time under the car, I have to get some hose clamps and all that good stuff worked out. But there it is, all ready to go. And I'll have to work out the P-clamp situation, but you can see it just lines up exactly where I wanted it to go. So that worked out great. And you know, you can see I've got room to move it around, you know, to get it located exactly where I want. And like I say, I'll come up with some clamp situation to kind of secure it back to the motor. And we should be all set. So yeah, now up to the front, and let's start working on the radiator side of things. And now the front. So here's what we start with. As I mentioned, this car's been prepped for oil cooler lines and AC. So this is the channel that actually runs up through a little protected area in the footwell, and then you can wrap around the inside of the fender, and then it pops out the longitudinals and you can get the lines down the side of the car. So oil cooler can come through there. Or this side has also been prepped. So this car was gonna have AC and an oil cooler. So all that stuff's already been opened up. But what we're gonna do, we're gonna start here on the top. This is where I need to bring the two radiator coolant lines through. And what often happens, and you can see, this is the Renegade kit radiator. And let me take you up from the top. You can see that they've clocked these inlets and outlets that way. So you can just take the Gates line and kind of just run it down and just do a direct connect, rubber to rubber, you know, rubber hose here all the way down. And I just happen to not be a real fan of that, you know, just right through the middle of everything. Let me show you the LS car. So here you can see what I did in this build. I built a little, I don't know, what do you call that? Cover plate with holes in it. And I took hardline all the way out. I'll show you the underneath of the car here in a second, but then, you know, got them out of the way so that, I don't know, battery, there's that possibility for the electric AC compressor. And then you'll notice here, I reclocked these to go this way and then made up some hard lines. So you can see what we've got to do. First, I got to get that opened up. Then I got to determine what I'm going to do exactly here. You know, what angle I want to run at. Am I going to copy the LS, do something a little different? You know, do I want to try to preserve clearance for something coming through here? You know, and I might try to come down really low and then up. So we will see. Oh, and then just for you radiator guys, yeah, the coolant tank at the back of the car is the high point. But the Renegade kit radiator does have a bleeder valve right here at the top to make sure there's no air pockets stuck in the radiator either. So that's the top side. And here's what we've got to do. So we're a bit upside down, but here are the channels. One comes through here, one comes through here, and then this panel that I'm bonking against is what we pointed at from inside the frunk, right? I open up holes here, and the coolant line, this one comes here, this one comes here, and up and inside we go. So that is what we have to do. And you can see this is the front brake line coming through, T-fitting. So it's all about making sure that, you know, brake lines got to be able to clear the hoses, and the hoses have to clear the brake lines in this case. And yeah, so let me open up that hole first, and we'll take it from there. And you know, I really do like that radiator hose pass-through, and I was fortunate enough, I save all my files. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and do the exact same thing. I'm gonna make up one of these and get it mounted, and then that helps me locate where exactly the holes need to be cut in that panel, and away we go. So let me just whip one of these up real quick. Right before I cut this, I wanted to just show you another neat little thing that these systems can do. So I modified this slightly. I made the openings slightly smaller. I'll get to that in a second. And then instead of having the plasma table cut these holes for the rivets, I changed them to simply a single point. And what I do then is I set up two different layers, they're called, in the system, and I assign those points to what I call the drill layer. And you'll see why here in just one second. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to save this. And when I pop into my sheet cam system and say, let's make a new part, and I bring this in, what you'll see is I have two layers here. And I'm going to turn off what's called the zero, well, it's the zero layer. I could have named it something else, but I'm going to go ahead and turn that one off. And now you can see I just have the drill points. And if I turn off the drill layer, I only have the part. So anyway, I'm going to turn the drill layer back on, but I'm going to come down here to this operations section, and I'm going to choose a drill function. And here you can see what it's going to do is, you know, that really isn't going to drill. It's just going to blast through each of those points. It's not going to make a hole. It's not going to move the torch. It's just going to punch a hole right there. And I just use that as the spot to start to drill to the size that I want. So I'm going to make this out of aluminum. And I don't know if you can see this coming through, but what it's doing is it's showing me the cut path. So it's going to come here and do its thing, walk all the way around that. Then I come up to what's called a jet cutting operation. And this is going to be doing the zero layer. And I'm going to use that same setting. Okay, so now I say okay, and then there's my cut path for each of those patterns. So I have 2 separate operations, and now I ask it to generate the G code, make sure that it's in the right folder, save that. I want to save the job, make sure it's in the right folder, save that. And now I'm going to fire up the actual plasma software and cut this part out of that scrap piece of aluminum. So let me do that. Okay, here we go. It's going to first do the drill layer, because that's what was the first item in the list of operations. So here we go. And you can see it just blasts a hole right where I want to drill. And it always pauses between operations, so I can go back to the machine, and all I have to do is hit one button and say keep going on the plan that we have spec. One hose opening. 2 hose opening. And we have our plate ready to be drilled. All right, now you are Frunk cam. And here you can see what the next challenge is. If I position this just kind of even approximately where I think it's gonna go, and you can see I laser lined a couple of orientation marks in here, I'm just gonna hold it at the top. And I'm pretty sure you can see, hard to get my arm out of the way to get the shadow, but you can see there's a gap here at the bottom. Can you see that gap? And that's because if I put a straight edge across that section of the chassis, can you see that? Well, you can see it from up here. It's not straight, right? It indents in right here. So that means I have to shape the bottom of this thing to fit down there, but only the bottom part, because the top part's pretty flat. So how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to break out the English wheel, and I'm using a Lazy English wheel, same as my bead roller and the shrinker stretcher that you've seen in other episodes. I took a metal shaping course from Lazy and fell victim to, I need all this stuff, so I got it. And an English wheel, for those of you that may not know, there's a big screw and a ram and 2 anvils. This upper anvil is the big one, and it's fixed. And this lower anvil is, you can swap different radius dies in here. And as you spin this wheel, it raises and lowers the anvil, so you can apply different amounts of pressure to the material that you're working. And as you squeeze that material, it literally, it flattens it, it squeezes it, it creates a larger area in the surface of the material you're working. And when you have more surface area, it has to go somewhere. It'll start to create a bump. You're raising material. It's how they shape fenders and all this other fun stuff. We need to raise the lower portion of this material. Actually, we'll sink it in, but obviously forward, backward. I need to have more area in this lower section so that it fits into that recess in the panel that we're going to fit this to. So the reason I chose this die, this radius, is because it's appropriately shaped. It's about the same as the panel that I want it to fit against. So I'm going to go ahead and start working this material. And I'm just going to start with a teeny little bit of pressure on this. And this is a little tricky in that I'm barely, I'm going to move it back and forth. And this is the fun of English wheeling. I'm not great at it because I don't do it very often, but you'll see what it does here in just a second. And there you can see a bump on that side to go into that recess, but still flat on this side because it's mostly flat on the top there. But take a look at what happened. This is maybe a little more detail than you care about, but look at how the bottom edge where I stretched it completely moved the material way, way, way outboard. It's not symmetrical with the top shape. And the reason for that is if I hadn't stretched the very edge, if I had kept, I gotta put this down so I can film and talk. If I had only stretched inboard of this edge, I would have just had a bump here, right? But I needed this whole area to bump. And so that's what it did, is it moved the material. It didn't just move it up, it stretched it out. And you can see it's, well, it's hard to see on the video, but it's a bunch thinner right there. So I just scribed a little mark, took a copy of the shape up here and flipped it around and put it down there. So I'm gonna get this back, I'm just gonna trim that piece off. And if I go back down and give you front cam again, and I hold this in place, again, I'm rough guesstimating it, but you can see what we've got, right? It's contacting the base, and by the time I get this riveted in, it's not gonna, you know, it'll, any little teeny area that it's standing off is gonna just, and I can tweak on it a little bit, maybe just, aluminum's nice because you can just kind of bend it to fit in certain instances. But there you go. So one little English wheeled piece. Now I'll get that trimmed and get that put in place so I know where to cut the holes. Okay, then some careful positioning and some drill holes, and we got some Clecos, and our panel is in place. And now I've just marked out where I want those holes to be. And I can do my best to get an undersized hole saw in there and cut those out, and then I can just take them out to the exact size that I want. Or I could actually go way oversized because that panel is going to take care of block and everything. So not that critical, but there we go. So a little bit of progress in the front. I get all excited and forget to film cutting both holes, but not too exciting to watch. Anyway, now you can see, if I take the green stripe hose, this is the crossbar, this front suspension crossbar member that carries the rear of the A-arms and the steering rack. And the steering rack is actually right above it. And so there's a space, I can't really show it to you from here, but there's a space where, here comes the green stripe hose, and the green stripe hose can go, give me a second, it can go, you can see, right under there. Now, obviously I gotta protect it and all that good stuff, but don't worry about that for a second. But if I shove this down in there, you can see, right? And now you can see why they clocked that radiator. I took the radiator out, but you can see how they would want you to do it, right? They'd want you to run one of these hoses up just like that. And you know, it's not horrible, but it's not great. And I think I can do better. So, but what I will show you, if I take you under the car, and then here's the hose coming back down into the channel. So that is how that would work. And there's the rack. You can see how the rack bolts to that crossbar that you just saw from the inside. So if I wanted to just go hose to hose, or you know, rubber all the way, that's how that would route. Same thing over here, out of this other hole, down into this channel. So let's go back and show you something else. Now, I prefer hardline, and what's nice about this is the 1¼ inch hardline that I'll be running everywhere in the system. And what's nice about it is it fits right through there, and there's a little bit of room, just like in the LS car. I have to make a little pad for it to sit on so it doesn't mess this pipe up. But you can see what can happen now. If I come out of there, this is a 45, but if I come out of there with a 90, I can just come, you know, right around the corner. I'm going to sort of set this in place just so you kind of get an idea. Now, it's not quite the right angle, but I think the point will be made. Here you can see what I'm going to do. I'll have a tube that runs out right here and points right at the channel, and I'll have a nice tidy hard line in the front trunk area, like you saw in the LS car, on both sides there. And so the Gates line will just come through the channel and plug right on here. And I can start my hard line, you know, kind of right in this area, and then just shape it however I want in the trunk. And here I've just put in some grommets that I may use. And if I fit this back on, and then obviously this isn't going to be how it is, and I'll have to get, these braces aren't going to be used for anything, so I'll knock those out. But this gives you the idea, right? If I had the 90 if this was the hardline 90, that can just set in there like that. And just like in the LS car, I got to figure out, you know, which one of these goes up or down or however I want to route it. But that gives you the idea of how this all works, right? And then here's the other one. And that's kind of how that's going to be. So we now just have to get, I got to go order materials, but there's my front pass-through. And now to construct the hard lines up to the radiator, and we'll be all done in the front. But since I don't have the parts necessary to make those hard lines, I'm gonna have to call it for this week. So good progress at the back of the car, good progress at the front of the car. This coolant system's almost done, and we're getting down to the last few things in order to get this car started. So that's gonna be pretty exciting. Anyway, appreciate you guys watching. As always, please leave me a comment. More encouragement, the better. And like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, all that good stuff. And we'll talk to y'all again real soon. Everybody take care. Bye-bye.